But we want to expand this to science tourism. That's the idea we have. Because South Africa has got so many interesting science sites. The cradle of humankind, for instance. And the SKA, many other things. Take you to the CSIR and be able to see quite a lot of other things. Mapumbukwe and all that. So it's quite an interesting point, because what it does, we use tourism to advance science, but also we use science to advance tourism. It's mutually beneficial. But the main thing really, Chair, is on the funding, investment and funding generally. When I led a team to the Silicon Valley, when was it? 2 years ago? We went to the Silicon Valley specifically to look into what is this model for innovation and commercialization and so on in the west of the United States. I'm planning now to go to China, because there's another version of this kind of investment, innovation, and so on. We met a group of what we call venture capitalists, who said, one of them, by the way, knows South Africa. I think he is ex-South African or has worked in South Africa, said, the problem you have in South Africa, you don't have venture capitalists. And it defines them as a special breed, because they focus only on supporting startups. You are not going to get the big banks in South Africa, unfortunately, doing venture capital. They are not interested. They are only interested in the big boys and girls. It's normally the boys, the big boys, to fund. The example is the 200 million rands that we set aside as government. Was it 200 billion, not million? For COVID. Yeah, we failed to spend that money for SMEs. Completely. Partly now, on reflection using that, is that we don't have a culture and also the existence of venture capitalists. In the Silicon Valley, in the US, they only focus on new IPs and commercialization. And they've got a model of funding that is not like your strict, normal, mainstream bank. They are willing to take risks and so on. And they've given birth to massive companies. I'm sure many of these other companies we have now, the big tech companies. There's an interesting book, by the way, I'm reading, which I want to recommend, called The Tech Coup. How the tech companies have actually taken over the United States in particular, but also they're taking over the world. Some of them started being supported by venture capitalists. Now, I'm raising this because I don't know whether we discuss that. Because it's one thing, we are identifying lots of areas where we can find money, which is good. That's the value of this. But how do you do that? Because according to these people, what they were saying to me in the US, you can have lots of money for venture capital, but unless you have got a culture of venture capital and venture capitalists who just focus on supporting these new startups, we are not going to move. Even that money is going to sit there forever. For instance, we could argue maybe in government to say the PIC must set aside a certain percentage of money to support startups. But you need players who are going to be able to do that, to go and do the work, convince the PIC, engage with others. In fact, chair of TIA, that should also be part of the catalytic role of the Technology Innovation Agency. Because this agency, which is our entity as the department, on its own, won't be able, can do a lot, but won't be able to achieve these things at the scale at which it is required. So TIA can act as a catalyst, but you need allies, and your allies is the venture capitalists. I don't know whether you did talk about that. a bit, because I was convinced when I heard that, actually. That's what we are short of in South Africa. We don't have those. Yeah, because we are a monopolistic country, though we have huge SMEs, but the financial sector doesn't care about SMEs, frankly, if one were to be blunt. Thank you.